I'm going to be doing what they call drop and lean on these, which is I'm going to be moving the trellisy sort of stuff around so that the plants can be properly pruned. I would prefer for some of this to be more open. I may be able to make it more open if I get another loop roller. This actually doesn't need a roller right this second. I'm going to snag this roller off of here and use it to redirect. I'm going to reorganize some of the tomato stems. I'm going to ignore this little guy, except that I'm going to disinfect my clippers. I have a jar of bleach, and that's here for a reason. As I mentioned, some of these plants are more susceptible to fungal infections than others, blights and that sort of stuff. So I'm particularly careful when I trim them to make sure that I'm not spreading anything. And I'm just going to continue this process. I'm going to totally ignore this guy here. Clean the see if anything here feels like it needs to be chopped or improved or fixed. It's doing okay. Got a couple of funny little leaves on that one, and also on that one. Take a sucker off on there. This poor little plant. My goodness. This truss is done, so I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to take off that. This truss. This plant, despite having been not well and practically dying, has actually produced a considerable number of fruit. But I'm going to trim it back a little bit anyway. Like I say, the nice thing about this is nothing is written in cement. You can come back at any time and change it. You can watch it grow a little bit and then decide that something's gone in a different direction and it would be better done this way or that or the other thing. The big commercial greenhouses have very regimented setups, which makes sense for their environment. We're a lot more casual than that. And, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, a little bit too much vegetation down here. Let's get this guy out of the middle here so there's more airflow. And I may change my mind totally on this. I'm allowed to do that. It's very convenient. Okay, that's Nice. Now everybody looks healthy down here. There's no suckers that need to come out. Like I say, some of these tomatoes I really did have the time to prune. I've been trying to prune them a couple times a week in terms of keeping up with suckers and stuff. And I did better on some than others. But I've been through here pretty thoroughly in the last week, so shouldn't be too much on some of these plants. I'm not convinced I should let that sucker go. Every once in a while, poor Jack gets scared. Sorry, Jack. This guy has produced, this is a big beef, he has produced a ton of fruit already this year. It's been very cool. I mean, the plants are kind of in between right now. I mean, you can see they've got some new, but I've done most of the harvesting in the last couple of days, so there's not a lot to show on these plants, but they've actually already given us quite a bit. Quite a few tomatoes. They don't look big and bush and fancy, but they're doing great. That plant thing is a problem. Okay. This big, healthy sucker here, that is a gardener's delight. I'll have to change him up off that floor. Sometimes I can just scooch the plant sideways a little bit, the way I just did there. I don't want to pull them too tight, but I want to keep them supported well. I got a couple of problem children in here where I wound up with secondary branches that are producing fruit. I don't want to take those off. That's annoying. Sometimes you just have to sit there and think. What I need is to be able to lay this whole thing down farther, but I think I'm going to have to do it in stages. And I'm also going to have to add a couple more reels. These are called reels. And move everybody over. But not today. So we'll get everybody with a super basic drop and lane. The end down there is doing great. This in the middle here is a little more crowded. It's not as good a solution here right now, but that's okay. We'll fix it in the long run. One of the problems I have is I hate to take anything off of this particular type of plant because I really like them. They're a paste tomato. And I'd planned to have more in here this year, and we just didn't get enough seedlings. I want to see how they do in here because I have to decide, are they better off in here or are they better off in the garden? Early on we were having trouble with these Gardener's Delight splitting, and we've had some definite trouble with them in the garden splitting this year because the rain has been erratic, and obviously you can't control the rain, and they are an heirloom, so they're a little bit more predisposed to splitting. But trying to solve as many problems as we can and make some plans for next year and all that kind of stuff all at once, because that's what we do. Okay, yeah, that's right. This is another one of those tangled up, slightly messy situations. But I'm going to move it over one, and that'll give us a little space. wants more suckers. It wants to make suckers everywhere it goes. This truss is done. Tons of little baby tomatoes off of these guys. So there's nothing I could do with that right this second. But see, these Gardener's Delight produce these trusses with just flowers and flowers and flowers. That's really awesome. It just makes it look messy, and messy is okay. As long as we're healthy, messy is okay. Shouldn't take much time because they're already well pruned. Now you want to be careful not to pull so hard on this that you pull it out of the perlite. But I know that I can leave that a little bit loose right now, and give it another week, they'll probably be shooting up even more. I'll be able to move them over more and all that stuff. So I'm just going to do a little bit right now. We'll do this in stages. And I was going to take off a couple of little suckers down here. And the truss that's done down here. I hate taking off suckers that already have fruit on them. I'm going to put you back here for now. And we'll decide what to do with you later. Maybe we'll let you finish your fruit and then we'll chop you off. Sometimes your lower branches get kind of scudgy as time goes on. Always get those off. In case there's any issues. You'll see me do the same thing on the cucumbers. I always wind up with some scudgy looking leaves because they'll rub against one another and they'll damage one another. And one thing I know from experience is I'll see one set of things today. When I come back tomorrow, I'll see a different set of things. I'm also going to bring out some more of the reels so that I can hook up some more reels, maybe pull some of it back towards the wall. I did switch a couple of tomato plants earlier. I don't like to switch any of the big ones once they're really established because they have a lot of weight to them and the branches are relatively fragile. Doing a quick look over to see if I see any more suckers that need to come off right this minute. Because every once in a while you'll be like, you're on the way out the door and you go, wait a minute, I missed that one. And then you'll go back and fix it. We decided to do it again. This is, I think, our third year of doing this. Every year has had its own problems. Last year, one of our biggest problems was actually the variety of fruit we chose. We had distinct problems with it and we will not be growing that again. We know that the Gardener's Delight works really well in here, and as you can see, I mean, we've got like a gazillion fruits on these plants. We've already gotten a gazillion fruits off of them. We know that Big Beef does well in here. Amanda Orange, we wound up with more of those plants that we planned on this year. They've got a lot of beautiful fruit on them. You can see they're doing great. And these are so delicious. I actually harvested 2 off of here this morning. These are an orange tomato, so they never get this red. But most of the other ones we grow in here are regular red tomatoes. Granadero, this guy here, he's a paste tomato. And he did really well for us in the greenhouse. Oh, I get hiccups now. He did really well for us in the greenhouse last year. And we decided to try him again. I planned to have more of them. Just didn't work out that way, so we have what we have. But we have gotten a few fruits off of them already, probably 8 or 10. They're currently the tallest tomatoes in here, so I need to be leaning more. By leaning, it gives you more space, and that space helps you be able to harvest more easily. I always have this stool in here. It lives underneath the bench. The reason it lives under the bench is to keep it in the shade so that the UV doesn't kill it. That's kind of where we are right now. I've been doing the same sort of thing over here with the cucumbers. You can see if you look all the way down. Let me see if I can get this to look all the way down without blowing anything up. Ooh. I think you can see that it droops way down. And we'll do the same thing eventually with the tomatoes too, in order to have that extra room. This is the pepper jungle. There's a bunch of different kinds of peppers in there, and there's also another small pot of pepper plants down there. But in general, I would say we're doing pretty well this year. Pretty well. We've gotten, let's just say the refrigerator's full, which is kind of like the ultimate test. So I hope you find this interesting. It's another technique you can use if you simply don't have enough room. The problem with most smaller greenhouses is you don't have 20 feet of clear story to work with here where you could just run them up all the way. And if you did, then at some point you'd have to be getting up on ladders to harvest, which is something you don't want to do, which is why in the professional greenhouses they start laying them down. And as these get bigger, longer, we will lay them down more. The only one that it really shows on right now is that end one there. It always looks really awkward when we first start, but as it goes on, it'll all make a lot more sense. And I have all the room here, and this whole thing can get in the way if it wants to. You know, in terms of bringing the tomatoes all the way down there. So that gives us feet. I mean, from here to there is probably 5 feet, 4 at least. And I don't want to crowd it too much. So say I've got 4 feet there. That means I can add, these tomato plants can grow 4 feet longer before I have to drop them too much closer to the ground. From this angle, I think you can see how I've laid that tomato plant over a bit. That gives me a lot more room because I can let these guys grow all the way up here now. And I'll lay over the other ones as they get a little taller too. I have more reels I can put up on there, and I'll grow them up here, and then as they get too long for that, I'll start to drop them down. So it's a process, but the ability to pick from the ground just really makes it so much better. So welcome to the jungle. Not too bad. It just gives us another way to manage the length of the tomato plants. These are all indeterminate, so they will continue to grow throughout their life cycle. And it is mid-August now, so mid-August, we have basically 2 more months as a minimum before we start to hit frost. And normally we can keep these guys much later than that because we have protection in here. So I know Jack, he says, I'm really ready, Mom. Could you say goodbye now? Okay. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I don't know whether he's hungry, thirsty, or just wants to go lay down somewhere else. But until next time, bye. He says, I'm done, Mom. I'm done.